Many thanks for joining in. My name is Dapo Adegboye. We'll begin the news at this hour by telling you that the Nigerian President Bola Tinubu on Sunday reeled out the achievements of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to African leaders. He spoke in Accra, the Ghanaian capital, on Sunday, while presenting the achievements of ECOWAS in the past year at the 6th Media Coordination Meeting of the African Union, detailing the efforts of the humanitarian and social development front. President Tinubu said ECOWAS has allocated $9 million to assist persons of concern, including refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. He said the frontline member states in the fight against terrorism have also been supported with $4 million under the ECOWAS counter-terrorism humanitarian response.
I wish to report that until January 2024, the ECOWAS region continued its engagement with the four countries in transition, namely Burkina Faso, Libya, Mali, and
We head to judicial matters now, where President Bola Tinubu has congratulated the newly elected president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe. President Tinubu conveyed his congratulations in a statement signed on Monday by Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajurin Ganali. The statement is titled, President Tinubu congratulates NBA President-elect Afam Josiah Osigwe. A former General Secretary of the NBA, Osigwe emerged as the President-elect in the 2024 NBA election, which was held online between 12 a.m. Saturday and ended at 11:59 p.m. local time. The final vote count announced on Sunday afternoon showed Osigwe leading his two major contenders with over 20,000 votes. President Tinubu commends the outgoing NBA president, Mr. Yakubu Maikayu, on his stewardship of Nigeria's firmest legal association. He assured the new leadership of the NBA of his administration's support in addressing challenges affecting the association and the legal profession in general. Well, joining me to discuss this is Justice Ojieno. He's actually a legal practitioner and he joins me live in the studio. Justice, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
All right, now let's get straight to it. A new NBA president. Are you excited as a lawyer?
Yes, I am very, very much excited, and it is against the backdrop of the fact that, of course, I saw that the president commended the president-elect now of the NBA, and I don't know how to react to that, because ordinarily the present NBA worked too much in tandem with the present government. That, for me, is primarily not the role of the NBA. We have a situation where the legislature, as it stands, is not counterbalancing the checks and balance role that we expect the legislature to perform. Labour, too, has been doing its best and practically almost being the only challenge that we seem to have against any arbitrariness of the executive. The NBA, too, has been known historically to be an organization that's supposed to be able to challenge the executive, but with the present crop of NBA leadership, we didn't have that. So I'm not too happy that the president is commending the president-elect of the NBA because he may want to bring him into his graces, but well, it is what sportsmen do. You congratulate persons who may also challenge you in future.
I mean, you said you're not so excited that the president, not at the election, but that the president is congratulating the new NBA president. That's the president of Nigeria. But again, let's look at the person of the newly elected president, Barrister Osigwe. I mean, he was a former general secretary of the same association. And you said the previous administration, or the outgoing administration, was more or less an appendage of the executive. Do you see a situation where this new leadership would truly stand alone and be, perform the role of checks and balance?
Okay, for me, I don't have the power of clairvoyance, so I may not be able to exactly see in details into the future. But it is my prayer and hope that what the legislature presently has dropped the ball on, the NBA is able to pick. And of course, his emergence too is not without controversy, because as at this afternoon, there has been an unprecedented and serious challenge to the process of his emergence as the president-elect of the NBA, because one of the contenders, Mr. Chukwuka Ekwazom, has actually written to the Electoral Committee of the NBA to preserve all data in order for them to be able to confirm whether indeed and in truth the process that brought Mr. Afam Osigwe is very legit. But having said that, because of the presumption of the fact that, okay, the election was great, I congratulate him, and I just wish him very, very well. And I also pray that he doesn't drop the ball, or he's not weak in his challenge of executive arbitrariness like the present or outgoing NBA.
All right, now let's also look at the prevalent challenges within the judiciary, particularly challenges that affect lawyers like yourself that you feel the current leadership should address.
Okay, number one thing is, whenever the executive comes to town with any policy, the NBA, if the NBA goes to town and just endorses it, it makes life difficult for the average lawyer to challenge. There is a serious infighting between the NBA and various of its committees. One very, very notorious one is the fight it has with Speedel. And we have a situation where the courts actually gave an injunction and ordered that Speedel does not go ahead with a particular event, and the NBA went ahead to override what the court said. In a country that's supposed to be of laws, in a body that's supposed to be populated by persons who are trained to uphold the law. So these are some of the things that actually makes the average lawyer not necessarily happy with the present crop of NBA executive.
Let's also talk about the fact that right now, generally, from some quarters, in terms of trust in the judiciary, we are beginning to see the judiciary meddle in areas that a lot of people are beginning to raise eyebrow as to if at all the judicial arm should get involved in certain issues. And many are beginning to even doubt the credibility of that arm of government itself. We see where some cases where people get injunctions upon injunctions, and it makes the judiciary look like a pawn, particularly in the game of politics. I'd like you to speak on this vis-a-vis this new leadership.
Okay, for me, I feel that Mr. Afam Osigwe, being a former barman, having had a first bite at the apple, this is going to definitely hit the grounds running. And it's my prayer that he goes after some of the lawyers, unscrupulous lawyers that put the judiciary in a very, very terrible light. I would also like to speak on the American Bar Association and their participation when it comes to persons who get appointed to the judiciary. Their voice is very, very crucial and important. So before they appoint a particular judge, they seek the opinion of the American Bar Association, and those ones actually give a rating. If they give a high rating to a particular person, it means that it's easier, and the person it's an imprimatur on the qualification of that person. I feel that too should be pushed for in the Nigerian system, so that the persons that staff the judiciary become persons who are indeed qualified, honest, and truthful persons who are worthy to actually have the power of a god in human affairs, because that's the way I see the power of judges generally.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the news. Justice Ojena, legal practitioner. Thank you for joining me on the news.
It's my pleasure.
All right, now let's stay with judicial matters now. We have Federal High Court in Abuja has declined to halt all expenditures by Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State, pending the hearing and determination of a suit filed by the Martin Amaole-led Rivers Assembly. In a ruling on the motion ex parte moved by Honorable Sebastian, Justice Emeka Nwite ordered that all defendants in the suit be notified of the proceedings. However, Justice Nwite granted another motion ex parte by the plaintiffs to serve the 5th to 10th defendants with the originating process and other applications in the matter through substituted means. Now, the 5th to 10th defendants are Fubara, Accountant General, AG of Rivers, Rivers Independent Electoral Commission, and also the Chief Judge, CJ of Rivers, Honorable Justice S.E. Amadi, and the Chairman of the RSIEC, that's Honorable Justice Adolphus Enebeli, and the Government of Rivers State, respectively. The court has adjourned the case until August 7th for the hearing of the motion on notice. And of course, still on the news at this time, let's also tell you that the Dangote Refinery is seeking crude oil imports from Libya and Angola due to supply challenges in Nigeria. Now, the Vice President of Dangote Industry Limited disclosed this in an interview with journalists. The 650,000 barrels per day refinery is also considering other African countries for crude imports to boost production. Edwin mentioned discussions with Libya and Angola, amongst others. Previously, the refinery sourced crude from the United States and Brazil. This comes after Farouk Ahmed, a CEO of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, claimed the refinery's products are inferior. Aliko Dangote, chairman of Dangote Group, has refuted Ahmed's claims, calling for an independent test. To discuss this, we are joined live by Abubakar Umar, a financial analyst. Thank you for your time, Abubakar.
Thank you, Dapo, for having me. Good evening.
All right, now let's talk about logistical challenges of importing crude from distant locations like Libya and Angola. How will these imports impact on Nigeria's economy, particularly the cost?
Yeah, good afternoon. And then when you look at the issue of importing those and refinery for those crude oil from Libya, Angola, and other countries, you realize that you'll incur logistical costs, the transportation costs of bringing those crudes. And then the only difference of importing those in the African countries compared to the other ones in the USA to which and the refinery was importing is maybe you will incur lower transportation costs compared to when he's importing from Brazil and the United States. And then maybe we will have issues of infrastructural limitation considering African transportation routes regarding those refineries. But on the overall on the production cost of the refinery, I will say the production cost will actually be significantly lower as compared to when he imported from the US or the Brazil, as the case may be for this kind of thing. But then it's actually a good thing for the refinery to source its product within the continent, in the earliest possible time, because as time goes on, he will be able to get the crude oil from his home country as time may be. Yeah.
All right. Now, following quality disputes with the NMDPRA, how will securing crude from new sources impact the quality of output from the Dangote Refinery? Are there, any specific considerations for Libyan and Angolan crude in this particular regard?
When you look at the Libyan and Angolan crude, I think, Angola is not part of the OPEC now. So the Libyan crude and Angola, both of them are sweet crude. And then the Angolan crude is heavy, while the Libyan crude is light, which is also good, for refining petrochemical product. So both the crude will go. And then there is also a mixed blending of the two of what the refinery need to do. And I think the most important thing for him is to be able to secure the crude, to have a security of supply so that he can be able to get them from time to time, so that he can be able to have a very security of output. Because as now, you are looking at importing from different kind of places, which shows you do not have, a security of supply. So, and without security of supply, it will become a very challenging and for the refinery to give out the output which and the expectation of the people and the entire economy lies on. So, number first is having to make sure that you have security of supply. Whenever you have a direct contract that will be providing you with the necessary crude, I believe that's the first step to be. There will be a mixed blend whereby the refinery can be able to give out what is required without having, to go for other sources of crude. So I think quality will be secondary. The primary thing is for them to have a reasonable and secure supply from a direct source. If Libya and Angola can be able to be supplying the refinery for a long period of time, then I think that's a good thing. The refinery can adjust to whatever type of crude that is available in those countries.
The NNPCL's allegations or alleged refusal to buy refined products from Dangote suggests potential competition or market dominant concerns. How might these dynamics affect the overall success of the new refinery and Nigeria's energy goals?
Yeah, those are alleged, and then when you look at the recent happening, it shows that they are trying to make sure there is issue of supply, and then there is issue of monopoly, whereby nobody relies on the entire refinery as a single thing to provide. This is actually a valid concern when you look at the issue of energy security. But then, if you take the data to look at before the refinery, what is happening, you see that we are still having challenges of the energy security. Queues are still available despite the fact that PIA was passed. There are still some sections of the PIA, like the Section 65 and other sections, which are not implemented. So the issue of alleged of them not buying, I think, is just early, economics issue, or maybe rather a political one that is happening, which I believe it's going to be resolved in the earliest time. But I think the Dangote has capacity to store crude and then the refined product for a long period of time. So I think the country can decide to also work with him and also decide to have their line of importation open in case if there is any contingencies that stop him from supplying the in-house. So I believe it's still a political issue that can be resolved in the short period of time.
Now, beyond the immediate supply issues, what long-term strategies can Dangote Refinery and NNPCL implement to ensure a more stable and collaborative domestic refining ecosystem in the country?
Yeah, one of the, I think, strategy is that Dangote need to secure the supply of crude from inside the country. It's understandable for him not to get supply from those IOCs because, when you come into the market, there is an existing supply chain, there is existing forward sale agreement, there are so many other things going on, and it takes time for those kind of contracts to be vitiated. And without stopping all those contracts and then to initiate new one with the Dangote Refinery, it will take time. But by the time and the company has been able to secure a direct line of sight from NNPC and other IOCs inside the country, I believe, and if they come to an agreement, this should be the most important strategy that they will do to be able to get the crude in-house so that they can supply the domestic market and also export the excess, if any. So these are some of the things, and it's all coming together as a country, I think, which I believe that the president need to intervene so as to be able to make sure that the $20 billion investment is actually active and it is supplying the Nigerian people.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the news.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dapo.
At this point, we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Let's move to security matters now, where the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, says the insecurity bedeviling the northwest region of Nigeria was being made worse by criminal elements involved in illegal mining, banditry, and cattle rustling, amongst others. He added that their continuous activities have led to the destruction of life and means of livelihood. Lagbaja, represented by the Nigerian Army Chief of Operations, Major General Benson Sijen, spoke at the opening of a 3-day retreat for retired and serving commanders in the Northwest held in Abuja on Monday. He lamented that despite the Army's efforts to curb their activities, they continue to impact the Northwest and the country as a whole. Let's stay with military affairs. The Nigerian Army has reiterated its warning to civilians against wearing military camouflage, now emphasizing that it remains illegal. Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, Director of Army Public Relations, stated on Sunday that the ban is in place because terrorists and imposters often misuse military camouflage. Nwachukwu highlighted that only personnel of the armed forces and the Nigerian police force are legally permitted to wear military camouflage. He assured that the Nigerian Army remains committed to upholding the law and ensuring the safety and security of all citizens. Addressing a trending video showing a soldier molesting a civilian wearing desert camouflage, Nwachukwu clarified that the incident occurred in 2021 and that the soldier involved has been appropriately disciplined. Members of the Mietiala Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria have dismissed claims by the several Nigerians that the newly created Ministry of Livestock Development has been created to promote the controversial Ruga initiative, which was seen nationwide condemnation. Now, the group, during a press conference in Abuja, says that claims that the creation of the ministry is aimed at promoting a Fulani agenda is false and misleading, and its creation is to boost livestock production in the country, leveraging modern technology, thereby guaranteeing bigger returns on investment.
When we talk of livestock, it goes beyond cows. We are talking of pigs, goats, sheep, fish, donkeys, camel, etc., etc. And therefore, we are highly disappointed by the comments of some very educated people in several interviews granted in the media, equating creation of the ministry to the Ruga project of the last administration, and insinuating that it is a Fulani thing, and also as an attempt to take other people's land by force to settle pastoralists. These myopic commentators are so entrenched in their anti-Fulani sentiment that they fail to see the bigger picture and the opportunities open to veterinarians, animal scientists, beef and dairy processors.
Nigerian refugees from the Ngaubao community residing in Chad have called for economic support to engage in large-scale agriculture. Fleeing conflicts and instability in their communities, these refugees are increasingly expressing desires for repatriation amidst efforts to rebuild their lives. News Central's Umaru Kerawa, who interacted with the people in the community in Chad, now reports.
The retrogressive activities of insurgents in the various communities of the Lake Chad region led to some people deserted, running away from their hometowns. With the echoes of conflict fading away, the refugees are now yearning for repatriation to pick up the pieces of their lives in their home country, Nigeria.
Kuma muna so a jara muna ka muna abincin kayan komai kayan wannan muke so
kama suro kan tawo ya kiyarin yam kani committee aka Nigeria da kwarnar da alhamdulillah kama farne bon ma boral lenimi sabura da kunumjiya cinna faran biyan mana kamlai su kajina aka do wani mi do kama askiran da fitar kwarnar yangenum tulima boral faran ne bunum duniya wayin secretary fandena alhamdulillah
in yanzu kata ko kalambot ko ingin ba je kai hawa daya ba sai ka je doro kai fakatan ka ko koma to yanzu hanya wannan ba magana ce ma kwata duk yanzu wannan hanya yanzu ya ce inda an bude mana hanya wannan to ba janjan hinwa ba janjan komi to a cikin gari wannan dadin wanda yana da
Still in the West, severe flooding in Libya has led to a group of senators to propose relocating the capital city away from the overcrowded and poorly managed Monrovia. The suggestion met with a mixture of enthusiasm and hesitancy in the West African country. The National Disaster Management Agency said flash floods triggered by torrential rains between the end of June and early July left nearly 50,000 Liberians in urgent need. The flood-prone capital was particularly badly hit, owing in part to overpopulation, a poor sewage system, and a lack of building regulation. In East Africa, Kenyan officials have appealed for help to find containers of a highly toxic chemical that were looted from an overturned lorry near the capital city, Nairobi. Health officials have warned that sodium cyanide is dangerous and can kill if swallowed or inhaled, even in small amounts, adding that it also poses a major risk to the environment. It is not uncommon in Kenya for trucks to be looted following a road accident. After the lorry overturned late on Saturday, several containers were taken by persons who rushed to the scene. The National Environmental Agency urged the public to immediately alert the nearest police station if they spot the containers. We head to Southern Africa, where the movement of the accused in the Senzo trial in South Africa as calls between them are again coming under the spotlight as the trial resumed this morning at the Pretoria High Court today. Vodacom Forensic License Supervisor is back on the witness stand. So far, the alleged shooter has been placed near the hostel in Valorous on the day of the soccer star's murder, less than 2 kilometers from Mayiwa's then-girlfriend Kelly Khumalo's home. 5 men are currently standing trial for the murder of Bafana Bafana and Orlando Pirates football star. Well, joining me on the news to discuss this is Elton Hart, attorney with the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Thank you for your time, Mr. Hart. Now,
good evening, and good evening to the listeners up in the West.
Great. Now, the Vodacom's forensic expert is trying to link the 4 accused to the murder through phone calls that were allegedly made on the day that Senzo Mayiwa was murdered. Now, what are your thoughts on this so far, particularly as it works, in this case?
No, indeed, they need to use these techniques called cell phone triangulation to try and put the accused persons in the vicinity when the alleged offense, when the offense occurred, so that they can say on the circumstances available to court that they can be tied, because previous evidence that they presented, where they said one of the accused persons had a gold teeth, and then later on the dentist came and said, but this guy never had dental surgery. So placing the accused on the scene, the cell phone evidence becomes then critical to show that they were within a 2-kilometer radius from the crime scene. And that is important, but also the defense can use this information to their advantage if they understand exactly how the cell phone triangulation works. And you could already see by the cross-examination that they're already on that tangent to make sure that how these signals work and how the signals bounce off from one tower to the other, depending on certain external factors.
Now, today, Advocate Mangome Zulu was on it again about the state not giving the defense all the information they need. And again, Judge Ratha seemed not to be reprimanding the state on this. Now, because this is not the first time the defense has brought up this particular issue, can we say this trial is being fair, particularly on the accused?
No, I think the state is constantly ambushing the defense in the presentation of the case, because for them not to provide all the information, because what the prosecutor in this case failed to understand, that the role of a prosecutor is not to find the accused person guilty, is to make sure that the administration of justice happens and that everybody receives a fair trial. And if it means that these 5 guys is acquitted because there's insufficient evidence which the state has in their possession that can prove their innocence, the state must make it available, and the state should not go all out to say that we're going to try and make sure the evidence that we have, will use it in such a way so that we secure conviction and then suppress other evidence that could actually exonerate these guys. And that, I feel, the judge should have stepped in already a long time ago to say to the state, if you guys are not ready and if you're going to bring any new evidence, it must be made to the defense at least a week or 2 in advance, because they still need to consult with their client who's in any event in custody. So it's not as a client that's walking to your office. It's a lot of administrative and logistical arrangements that need to be made. So I think the state is ambushing the defense, and the judge should have and actually reprimanded the state long time ago, but he's sort of treating the state with cotton wool in the hand, like a baby, and not as harsh as he is on the defense team.
Now, as a legal practitioner yourself, do you think the state has a case against these 5? And looking at the witness the state is bringing in, how close or how far are we from seeing this case, being concluded?
I think the state will want to still call another 3 or 4 witnesses, but the state's case for me at this point in time is purely based on circumstantial evidence. There's not direct evidence linking these 5 accused to the actual crime scene. They're using now circumstantial evidence, and there's no crime for them to be in forcible arrest at that given time. Because the evidence that was already before court is that one of the accused number 3, his phone pinged in the forcible arrest hostels at the Basuto hostels between 2:30 and 3:30 that afternoon. And then again from somewhere 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. After that, his phone was off. And the state said that he could have switched his phone off, he could have left it somewhere. But that very same argument the defense can use to say that you are saying that, but it can also be, I leave my phone in forcible arrest, but I go to Gauteng, not to Gauteng, to Sandton City. So it's purely circumstantial, and I think the state case currently is built on circumstances, and I think there's a lot of doubt in this case that these are the actual 5 people, and also the state's reluctance on not calling the other people that was in the house on that night of the fateful killing of Sandton Mayiwa should sort of put a something in the back of your mind to say that, listen, here's something untoward, and I should not find these guys good.
All right, thank you so much for joining me on the news at this time.
Thank you.
In the east of the African continent, Ugandan opposition leader Bobi Wine has said security forces were besieging his party, the National Unity Platform, NUP, in Kovuli on the eve of a planned anti-corruption march that has been banned by the authorities. The action comes 2 days after President Yoweri Museveni warned that Uganda's planning to take to the streets on Tuesday were playing with fire. Ugandan authorities have frequently cracked down on the NUP and Wine, a popstar turned politician who challenged Museveni unsuccessfully in the last election in 2021. Wine cautioned his followers, saying as they march to Parliament to protest tomorrow, they should be aware that the regime is ready to shed their blood to stay in power, but this should not scare anyone. The United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer has weighed in on the surprise decision by Joe Biden to drop out of the U.S. presidential race. Speaking at Farnborough International Air Show, Starmer said he respects Biden's choice, calling it a difficult decision made with the American people's best interest in mind. Starmer noted that he knows Biden's decision wasn't taken lightly, but rather after careful consideration. The UK Prime Minister's comments comes as Biden's departure from the race leaves a significant impact on the US political landscape. To discuss this, we are joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, thank you. Now, what has been the reaction to the news that President Biden is stepping back and Vice President Harris is going for the Democratic nomination?
Well, you did hear from Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister. There, other European Prime Ministers and Presidents have been rather more cautious in their thanking President Joe Biden for his work or their endorsement of Kamala Harris. We did hear from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. They said many strong decisions have been made in recent years and they will be remembered as bold steps taken by President Biden in response to challenging times. He went on to say, and we respect today's tough but strong decision. We will be thankful for President Biden's leadership. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says Joe Biden has achieved a great deal for his country, for Europe, for the world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is actually today traveling to the United States and is expected to meet with President Joe Biden later on this week, said in this time of war and uncertainty, it's important that Israel's enemies know that America and Israel stand together today, tomorrow, and always. I plan to see President Biden, who I've known for over 40 years, and this will be an opportunity to thank him for the things he did for Israel in war and during his long and distinguished career in public service as senator, as vice president, and as president, he finished saying.
I mean, what happens next in the presidential race?
And that really is the big question on everybody's lips now. The Democratic National Convention takes place from August the 19th to August the 22nd. It's thought that Kamala Harris will be formally presented as the nominee for the Democrats for president before then, potentially by August the 7th. Now, there's no one way of doing this. It's up to each party to decide how they pick their candidate. Now, remember, they've already had the primaries, and Joe Biden was the candidate that the delegates picked, but they can pick another candidate if they feel. Remember that that was a Biden-Harris ticket, and Harris's job as vice president and as a running mate is to step into that role should Joe Biden become incapable of doing it, which he has decided that he is. So it kind of should be an automatic thing that Kamala Harris steps up to be the presidential nominee. Now, a lot of people are saying perhaps that she shouldn't just be coronated and she shouldn't walk into it. But as vice president, that is her job, to be the stand-in, if you will, the vice if something goes wrong. So like I said, by August 7th, we think that she will be picked as a Democratic nominee. Now, the party are meeting on Wednesday, all the delegates. Perhaps it might be done virtually to enable everybody to be there. And they think that is the point where Kamala Harris will be formally declared as the nominee. Now, Kamala Harris herself has been very, very busy on the phone. It's thought she was on the phone for about 10 hours yesterday to party donors, to delegates, drumming up that support. Now, she has managed to raise a heck of a lot of the money in 24 hours. She has raised just under $50 million from grassroots support. It seems that the Democratic Party are more energized knowing that Kamala Harris is now their candidate. And she's on course to have the biggest fundraising 24 hours by anyone in political history, on course to perhaps raise $60 million. On Saturday night, an organization called Win with Black Women were behind a group Zoom call where they got together 44,000 Black women and raised $1.5 million alone. So she has been very, very busy. She's been drumming up support from the party. She has earned the support and endorsement of some top Democrats. Joe Biden, of course, was the first. Bill and Hillary Clinton, members of Congress, including Representative Frederica Wilson, Senator Tommy Baldwin, Representative Kathy Manning as well. But missing from those endorsements, quite notably, is former President Barack Obama. Now, could that be because maybe he might be throwing his weight behind his wife as she decides to take up the nomination?
I mean, talking
that
about
could be some of the rumors on Capitol Hill at the moment.
Okay, I think I'd like you to pick you on that one. Talking about the wife of the former President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. I mean, we know that all is not like finally set, you know, in terms of Kamala Harris being the final pick for the Democrats. But how likely is it, for instance, Michelle Obama would end up being a DNC nominee?
Right now, at this particular moment, as you and I are speaking, it's very unlikely. But we have to remember that 24 hours is such a long time in politics. Look at everything that's happened over the past week. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump, Joe Biden, who said he was adamant that he wasn't going to step back, and then over the weekend changed his mind along with that COVID-19 diagnosis. Now, Michelle Obama has always staunchly said that she would never run for president, and where we are now, she's repeating that claim. She's doubling down that she will never run for president, that she does not want to be the Democratic nominee. So right now, I think it's highly unlikely, but like you so rightly pointed out, it's not necessarily a done deal that Kamala Harris will be the Democratic pick. There might be other people that will throw their hat in the ring. Most of the delegates are likely to vote for Kamala Harris because she is already on the ticket with Joe Biden, plus she's vice president, and she is known to pretty much everybody on the campaign trail. It doesn't mean to say that Michelle Obama might decide to put her hat in the ring, and the delegates might think, hold on, this could be a real viable challenger for former President Donald Trump. So like I said, right now, it's not very likely that she will run, but like I also said, 24 hours is a long time in politics and things can change very, very quickly.
Afia Hagen, News Central's international correspondent, thank you for your time. In business, crude oil prices rose in early trade on Monday as investors keep a lookout for signs of a rate cut cycle expected to begin as soon as September. Brent crude prices were up 48 cents or 0.57% at $83.10 a barrel by 0:35 GMT. And the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fixtures rose 42 cents or 0.52% to $80.55. The U.S. Federal Reserve will next hold a Federal Open Market Committee meeting on interest rates on July 30th to 31st, at which investors expect the Fed to keep the rates unchanged while looking for any signal of a cut coming later in the year. Let's wrap it up with some sporting details, where Nigeria's Super Sand Eagles will shunt host Mauritania 5-4 in a beach soccer Africa Cup of Nations qualifying match on Saturday, scheduled to return to the country by midnight, a few minutes into Tuesday. In their first international game in 5 years, the coach Abdullahi Issa-led squad came from behind to defeat the host in an action-packed encounter in Accra on Saturday evening. Highly experienced Emeka Ogbonna scored after only 2 minutes and 14 seconds to set the Super Sand Eagles in the right spirit and mood for victory. And another veteran, Emmanuel Ohaferia, doubled the lead for Nigeria 36 seconds later. The host halved the deficit to end the first period 1-2. In the second period, Mauritania hit 2 quick goals to shoot to the lead before another veteran, Victor Tali, equalized for Nigeria. The host again shot into the lead early in the third period, but goals by Taiwo Adams and Tali gave Nigeria the day and the needed impetus ahead of the return leg. The return leg will hold at the Murtala Mohammed Square, Kaduna, on Saturday. And that's a wrap on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that President Bola Tinubu congratulates Afam Osigwe on his emergence as NBA president. We also told you that Nigerian army says insecurity in Northwest worsened by banditry and illegal mining. Kenyan authorities raise concern over looted sodium cyanide. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms: DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dapo Adegboye. Bye for now.